So now I have this, and it's about 5.5 inches wide and almost 17 inches long. And I have this zipper, which is going to cover part of my design, but I planned it that way. So sometimes functional parts of a bag will cover up part of the design that you're kind of fond of, but you know, it's just part of the thing. And I'm going to show you how to make this little bag with the diagonal zipper. I've made several prototypes and tried it a bunch of different ways. This is the one where I wanted to see, well, what's it like if it does wrap around the corner. This is just made out of my little tension testing piece. It's not even, although I do kind of like it. This was my first prototype. So anyway, we're going to put in this zipper, and then we're going to seal this off. And I did purposely plan so that my batting was short here by about 3/4 of an inch, and so now that I've trimmed it, there's just, the batting only goes so far, and when I was stitching I tried not to fall off that and snap my threads, so I was careful about that. But so this is how we're going to do it. So for this project I wanted to recreate a bag that, a little cosmetic bag that I made when I was in high school out of a little white pre-quilted remnant and a zipper. And the zipper I installed diagonally so that I didn't have to figure out a different way to install it. And I didn't do it on top like this because while this is something that's acceptable now and is a little more modern treatment of a zipper, back then you didn't do that, so I didn't do that. I tried this a bunch of ways, and the one that I like the best is the one I'm going to show you, where you put your zipper where you want it, and I'm just going to pin it enough to keep track of where I want it. So the first thing I'm going to do is stitch the edges on using my edger foot. I want my needle all the way over. I'm going to like a bigger stitch rather than a small one. Then I'm going to come back and I'm going to stitch this side. So there's what the zipper is going to look like. How much of the design it's going to cover. So then what I'm going to do is, working carefully from the back, I am going to cut out the middle part of the zipper, and I'm trying to leave about 3/16 here because I really don't want to have anything under the path of the zipper, and I also don't want to leave too little to stitch it down and just have it flopping around. So I'm going to try to trim this at about 3/16 to 1/4. And my zipper zipped up because I don't want to have it be easy for my scissors to catch the zipper. Little thickness here because I've got those extra fabrics. I'm going to cut this way. So I've got this nice and cleared out, and I don't want to leave this raw. You certainly could. You could also use a pinking shear on that. But what I'm going to do, use my regular foot, and I'm going to zigzag that. So I'm going to pull it open like this, and I'm going to put this in here. And I want the zigzag to kind of wrap the edge. I don't want to come over and catch the zipper. If it did a little, it wouldn't be a problem, but if it did it a lot, it could make things not very nice. So I'm just going to zigzag both sides. Then, with it still zipped up, and using whatever foot works the best for me, so I'm going to use my regular foot, I'm going to put another row of stitching. My guide's on here, but I'm not using it, so I can just tip it up. I'm going to stitch down so that I'm catching that again. So of all the ways I tried to put in this diagonal zipper, this is the one that's absolutely the neatest. And it's the modern installation with the zipper tape on top. Okay, so to do this, what I'm going to do first is I'm going to sew this end. And I'm going to offset them a little bit. First I'm going to stitch down this, and then I'm going to zigzag down this edge. And you can see how I planned it so I wouldn't be hitting my zipper here. And then I am just going to zigzag this end so that it doesn't have these frayed parts coming into the interior of the bag with my stuff that I'm going to keep in there. This is so thin now that I actually could pretty easily just bind this. But instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to press it this way, because I really felt that on these prototypes these ends were just too bulky, where I was just binding it in. It's just too much. I didn't care for that. This is just about 3/8 that I'm working with here. And I'll make sure that my zipper head is not trapped off the edge. You can fix that, but you don't want to have to. I always primp the fabric as I go, and so here I push my finger in and push against all of the quilting with my finger so that all the layers are pushed back. Then I stitch, carefully holding the end of the zipper together so that it's not gapped open really badly. And then I stitch down, and before I get to the end, I make sure that this pressed over edge is positioned the way that I want. And then if I need to, I will use a little tool to push it back. I don't stitch anywhere near the metal. You can use a bodkin instead of your scissors. Now I'm gonna get my junky scissors out again. And I don't know if you saw what I was doing before, but when I stitch something at the ends like this, I like to use my finger to really push all the layers out and make it so that you don't have some of the looser layers, especially with big quilting, inside there where you turn it and you got a bunch of rumples and puckering. And a zipper, you know, is made so that it locks when it's in the completely closed position. So if your zipper tab, if it's like this, you should be able to push it pretty easily, just pushing on that tab. But if your zipper is flipped back, you'll need to get your finger in there and flip that towards you to unlock it. So now I'm going to just turn this out to make sure I like it before I finalize anything, which is a good idea to do. You don't need to do it so much if you've made something a ton of times and you know what's going to happen. But if you're fairly new to a pattern, I think trying on constantly, turning out constantly. The exception to that would be if turning out was gonna stretch things out. But I think even then you just want to go extra carefully. So these corners will push out a little further than that to finalize. But you can see this is what my case is going to look like when it's finished, on that side and on that side. And I think it's pretty. I like it a lot. And I may well keep my makeup in it. So we're gonna bind these sides so that we don't have all that. And that's just what the end looks like. And because I pressed it over, it's forcing that corner to turn out properly. So I'm going to get my zipper head away from my seam. That binding on the edges is kind of nice because it sort of stiffens up the edges and it kind of makes the bag nice and perky. I always cut the tape, which I just did with this, on the mat, and it's cuts at 1 7/8 for the 1-inch tape maker. That's what works best for me, and I have enough to do this twice with a little extra on the ends, and so I can do both sides. And then you cut a little point on the end so that you can feed this through here, and then you press it with the blue part down. So I have this pushed through, and I just kind of push like this to get started. Slipping a little. And when this comes out the other side, I like to grab it and then just pull through. And that's how I make my seam tape. I'm going to just stitch it on, and I'm going to stitch even with my bottom end, and then I'm going to cut it so it's a little bit long too. Okay, so I've trimmed off got both edges trimmed. Just to relieve this bulk a little, I'm just going to nip off this corner, and I'll nip off this corner. And then I'm still going to try to square up for the most part. So I'm going to wrap this corner, folding down, kind of pinch everything in a little bit, and I'm going to come around, and then I'm just going to stitch that down. Just going to wrap this end. I'm going to do the other side. I can clip these off first. Run over the edge about 3/4 of an inch. Alright. So here, again, just going to wrap this corner, folding down, squishing it a little bit together, flipping it over. This is the side where my zipper zips up to, and I don't know why, but I just feel a little better if I back stitch over that area. I'm planning to have better lighting in the new sewing room, and the sheetrockers came this week, and there's a little bit of stuff to take care of, and then they'll tape. The drywallers will tape, and then it will be time to really get going in there. And I'm going to call it the Doghouse. Where's Mom? She's in the Doghouse. She's in the Doghouse sewing. Make sure you looking in to see if she's filming if you're going to walk in. Alright, I'm going to actually use my screwdriver to try to push these corners out a little bit more. So, this is it. If you keep your makeup in here, you can see your mascara, and you know, some things could fall down on the bottom, but you can really see what you want because it opens up enough to allow that. And I do like these stiff sides. And you can't see all the way down to that one zigzagged part. It's very easy to whip one of these up quickly from anything you have pre-quilted. And for those who are interested in seeing what I was thinking about and trying to accomplish when I made the quilt top for this little cosmetic case. I'm going to post that on Patreon. Also, I wanted to let you know that on Etsy I'll have a 10% off discount that starts the day after Thanksgiving and runs up through Christmas Eve. And also for patrons on Patreon, there will be a deeper discount that you'll see in the postings there. And I just want to thank everybody for their participation. I really appreciate it. This is the project.